Some things just don't stick with fans, and with a franchise that spans over 60 years, Doctor Who has definitely had its fair share of failures. Some of those so-called failures ended up being called classics. Tastes like chicken! I personally believe that bland or forgettable episodes are worse than bad ones. This is because we're getting less and less Doctor Who each year, and for even one episode to be considered a filler story is just a waste of time. An example would be Praxeus. Wasn't the worst of the series on a logical or story perspective, yet I would call it the worst. One series that is full of these filler episodes is Series 7, especially the second half with Clara. This is due to Moffat trying to work out how to resolve the cliffhanger at the end of Series 2 of Sherlock, and then giving us like a dozen and allowing you to pick your favourite. My money's on Darren Brown. He was, of course, sole showrunner, not Darren Brown, Stephen Moffat, on Doctor Who, writing a new companion, an arc, a 50th anniversary, a regeneration. There was a lot of stuff happening in 2013, so he wasn't really thinking about creating stories that push the boat out. That's why the stories don't really connect, because they were written by guest writers with standalone ideas. And of course, tones.
We are comrades.
Die, reptile!
Moffat then added a kind of arc with the Impossible Girl and the Doctor's name. The latter it couldn't really deliver on.
What's your first name?
Basil.
Stop pissing on your arc, Moffat. As it is the 50th and there's an awful lot of stuff going on, and there's only a small amount of Clara and Matt Smith focused episodes, it's very easy to forget Series 7B. One episode within this series that I believe to be the king of being forgettable is Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. The Doctor and Clara are taken in by a salvage ship run by three brothers, one a-hole leader archetype, an idiot, and a cyborg. We'll talk about that later. Put simply, there is a crack in the TARDIS, so with Clara lost, time is of the essence to get her back before she dies. During the story, the TARDIS tries to stop them stealing its eggs. Think about that for a second. And a series of time zombies chase them. This episode's most notable feature is its in-depth look at the vast TARDIS interior. If we put that through my corporate translator, that translates to a few rooms we won't enter that will appease fans and a few that we will, but mostly it's a lot of the same corridor. Moffat was a big fan of showing off the TARDIS interior after the invasion of time, showed a few sections, such as the pool. Moffat was annoyed by the lack of coverage, especially with the scope of rooms that were possible. So when Moffat wanted to include a large interior living up to his childhood imagination, one thing is clear, Moffat really holds a grudge. The set design is probably the best aspect of the episode, with old but artistic looking rooms, the library being one of the highlights. One thing that also falls into the same category is the lighting, with a lot of green and red giving the episode a colour grade we haven't seen before. It's not just those, the costume and the direction are great. The performance was okay.
No, look. There's something tasty in the Magnofield.
I guess. And the story is pretty solid, but I'm afraid this is where things begin to go wrong. There's a great episode here, but it's not utilised correctly for me to really love it. The Future Echoes as a premise was great, and in shows like Red Dwarf was used really well. Here, they never used them to create a mystery. They do, is probably what you're thinking right now, and you're right. But they only touch the surface. I would have liked to hear or see things without context, and then later for those gaps to be filled in, so the puzzle pieces come together as the echoes catch up. They don't do a lot with them to make me interested. The ending is also a bit anticlimactic, and I'm not still sure what's happening. It's all wrapped up with a big friendly button that was foreshadowed. Not awful, but just doesn't sit quite right. The other bit of the plot that I believe is worth talking about is the relationship between the two brothers. The third is busy getting his face burnt off. The so-called twist between these two is that the cyborg is not a cyborg, but is a cyborg because his eyes and his voice box
cyborgy.
What does this epic twist do for the story? Not a lot.
He has a pole in his shoulder, but it's cut out of there anyway, so what was the point of including it? He gets killed in the next scene. The point of this, from my point of view, is the fact the episode needed to flesh out these characters, so made this to give the episode more emotional power. That's why at the end of the episode, when time has been reversed, the whole arc is resolved. These brothers are now fine, and the outcasted one is now within the photo, also stopping the criticism that the story didn't go anywhere, hence wasted time. Why on earth would anyone do that to any human, especially your brother? And I think it was just to force some conflict.
Overall, this episode isn't bad by any stretch of the word, but really lacks any substance even though it has some potential. I would like to say it's a lost gem, but I do tend to skip the story, and for no other reason than it just doesn't excite me. Therefore, this is Doctor Who's most forgettable episode. Well, that existed. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. I really enjoyed making it, so I hope to make some more in the future, particularly on Series 7, because I find it's a very interesting area of the show. With all of the collection box sets and Blu-rays and stuff that we're getting over the next month, I thought it'd be good to break it all up with a video essay. So, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you soon. Goodbye.